If social media was around in your childhood, what embarrassing moment would you be famous for? I had a stomach bug once in middle school and the fucking nurse didn't believe me. I may have cried wolf before. I suffered through school all day until finally my last period. We were taking a test and I asked my teacher if I could go to the bathroom, and before I could finish speaking I projectile vomited over her shoulder and mostly into the trash can. The jock in the class was like, "Whoa, your throw up looks like Sprite." And even in my stupor I was like, what the fuck? My teacher made the horse girl walk me to the nurse with the soiled trash bin, and horse girl was actually super cool about it. Told me not to be embarrassed and took my mind off it by talking about horses. In 5th grade I was in a school musical production where in one song I was the boogie woogie reindeer, and during the song I was supposed to dance. Well, my mom had just showed me the movie Coyote Ugly, so I thought the best course of action was to dance like the girls in that movie. I'm sure there's still a home video out there of the 5th grade boy dancing like a stripper. Dignity in shreds. I met up with a few friends and I was able to put the entire debacle behind me, that is, until I ran into Ballerina Ninja, and the hug thief once again, who by a supreme fuck you by the universe had been joined by a couple of their friends. I glanced in their direction, and saw her nudge her friends and whisper something while pointing in my direction. Then they laughed. Was in a shopping mall when I heard someone say my name, at least it sounded like my name. I looked up from my phone to see this pretty girl walking towards me with outstretched arms and a smile. She looked so familiar, like someone I knew from my high school, so of course my dumb, nearsighted self, who didn't want to second-guess his good fortune, opened his arms wide to receive and reciprocate the hug. She sidestepped around me neatly like a ballerina ninja and delivered the hug to its rightful owner, who was right behind me in my blind spot, leaving me fumbling to play off the most embarrassing moment of my life. I still cringe when I think about this. Edit. Whoa. I never expected this to get anywhere. With multiple awards to boot. To show my appreciation, I've chosen to admit this was not quite the end of that soul-crushing ordeal. After hightailing it out of there, with my When I was about 14, a large male ostrich outrageously flirted with me, doing a full mating dance, leaning back, crouching and flailing his wings. My family and family friends witnessed the maniacal monochromatic motherfucker and nearly died from laughing so hard. I was mortified. Fortunately I never saw him again. My friend and I thought it would be fun to recreate Jackass and title it Jackbutt. We were like 11 to 12. Instead of doing anything actually dangerous, we would take the truck/wheels off our skateboard and do stupid tricks on a trampoline and then make a hand signal, and yell jackbutt at the camera. I am glad the recording on VHS was lost to the world. When I was around 4 years old, I would get cheeky often and do things I wasn't allowed to do. When my parents asked me if I did something, I would lie, but it would be very obvious. When they confronted me about it, I asked how they knew. My mother said that a big, red circle would appear on my forehead whenever I lied. Afterwards my parents asked me again if I did said thing. Me, thinking I was an absolute genius, would facepalm my forehead and deny everything. Edit. Thank you for your kind comments and awards. Was in choir and had an upset stomach, so was laying down while everyone else was practicing. Adults thought I was faking it, so made me get up and sing with everyone. A few minutes later I puked all over another kid. They let me go home after that. Oh God, I'm sorry, mine was similar, Mum thought I was faking and still took me to the lame nature walk when I said my stomach really hurt. Kids Club were on a trip there and all stopped to watch me throw up everywhere repeatedly for a while. It was so embarrassing. Similar here, my teacher thought I was being picky about eating peas and sweet corn, so force-fed me all of them and I threw up but caught it in my mouth, so I laid it out gently in a circle around my plate. It was quite thick. I got to go home after that, but I have hated peas and sweet corn ever since. Not embarrassing, but I ruined a magic show once. The magician said he needed a good kid to help him. I declared myself a good kid and walked on stage. I then proceeded to ruin the trick by pointing out the ball he made disappear was behind a table. He then sent me away. Something similar happened to me. I didn't ruin the trick, but magic was ruined for me when the magician asked me to help him on stage and secretly shoved the supposedly teleporting object in my hand. I was baffled and just went along with it, but my disappointment was immeasurable. My mom took a lot of pictures of me crying when I was young. I was a teenager when I found them, and even then I was all WTF. I am positive that they would all be on SM. It was complicated. No, I do not know why she did it. I do know that I received the least of the questionable interactions of all my siblings. I prefer to think that I was a beautiful toddler who cried gracefully. What cha gonna do? In my first sex ed class, we were talking about what happens when you go through puberty, starting with girls. A girl from the back raises her hand and says, "You get boobs." I raise my hand, "What are boobs?" To explain, I was very isolated, we had no TV at home, and the word boob just simply wasn't in our vocabulary. Plus, this was shortly after switching schools and languages. But let's not kid ourselves, this would have been all over social media regardless. I was around 8 or so and my first time seeing a men's urinal inside a McDonald's restroom. I thought to myself, what a weird sink, and proceeded to wash my hands on it by literally smearing my hands on the surface of the urinal where the water flows. Got back to our table and told my mom about it. I don't know, it was possible for someone to gasp, laugh, cry, and be embarrassed at the same time. I'm pretty sure other people from surrounding tables overheard it. Social media wasn't really used back then, Facebook's still on its early stages. My mom was in college when I was about a baby, so sometimes she'd have to take me. Well, one time we were in the computer lab during finals week, in the age before autosave, and I guess I got away by crawling under the tables. I found this nice glowing switch under there and apparently wanted to give it a press. Well, suddenly the entire lab shut off and about 30 people lost God knows how much work. She rushed me out of there totally freaked out before anyone got an idea of what happened. When I was in 2nd grade, I got stuck in a baby swing at a playground and the fire department had to use the jaws of life to cut me out of it. So glad Facebook didn't exist back then, or I'm sure that one of the adults present would have posted pictures of that crap. Oh my gosh, most embarrassing moment of my life by far. I was in middle school about 10 years ago and basically at the most vulnerable age of my life where everyone was trying so hard to be cool and accepted. My mom had a lot of older sayings that I would hear a lot and rubbed off on me. One of those was being fingered when someone would flip her off. She was fond of saying this in traffic whenever she'd cut anyone off. I didn't know it meant anything other than giving the one finger salute. So, I was walking in a very crowded hallway after lunch and trying to be a cool girl, and whatever, when the most popular guy a grade above me bumped into me while running to his locker. I yelled at him to watch where he was going, but in a joking manner, more to get his attention. Well, he turned around and flipped me off. And to get the attention of everyone else to see that one of the popular boys noticed me, I shouted, "Hey!" Mike fingered me. Bro, everyone and their moms stopped and turned to look at me and laugh. Mike looked upset and ran off. One of my friends pulled me to the side and told me what fingering meant, and I ran to the bathroom and refused to come out. I was then dubbed Finger Girl for the next few weeks until someone got beat up, and that was more interesting. Oh, I've got a good one. I was 7 years old and my parents were hosting a family and friends gathering at home. I mostly stayed out of the way and played video games in the living room, and adults would ask me what I was playing and whatever. It was nice. A few hours into the party I wanted some soda. I go to the fridge and see one of those little ice-breaking hammers and proceed to stick my tongue to it like the cartoons did to have a laugh. I pulled it off immediately, there was blood everywhere. I ran out crying with my bloody tongue out, to the absolute horror of every single adult. Now, you'd think this would be the viral moment, but no. A family friend that was a doctor was there, and he came over to me, saw my tongue and told me, "It's fine, I just need you to spit out some blood so I can get a better look." I proceeded to spit my mouthful of blood just straight to his face. Every single person that saw it lost their shit laughing. Even the doctor. Oh, I was absolutely fine. Tongue healed in a couple of days and all I got to eat was cold food. Tongues heal at an incredible rate. My little brother fell and bit 1/3 of his tongue nearly clean off. They stitched it together, and it was completely refused in days. It's incredible. As someone who had 3 grafts in my mouth, this is not true for the more major things. 6 to 8 weeks per graft of no straws, no solid food, nothing that flakes/crunches or shards. More minor things though, yay. A week is pretty much fine for most oral injuries. Tongue bitting is actually mid-level, not minor, but not surgery needed. After receiving the CD as a gift, singing the entirety of Boyz II Men's "I'll Make Love to You" on my 8th birthday to my parents, aunt and uncle, and both sets of grandparents, one of which is very religious. Throw your clothes on the floor. I'm gonna take my clothes off too. Let me just start this post by saying I was not a smart 9-year-old. There was an old wooden play set in my backyard. I don't remember what happened to piss my dumbass 9-year-old brain off, but let's say I fell off of the play set. I blamed the play set itself for my own incompetence and grabbed a metal baseball bat that was laying close by. I put my arms above my head and swung the bat downwards toward one of the play set ladder rungs as hard as I could. I did not win. The metal bat came back toward me and hit me square in the forehead. I laid there unconscious for a while, and when I woke up I had a huge lump where my forehead used to be. That lump stayed with me as a reminder of my defeat for at least a week. TLDR, I knocked myself unconscious with a metal baseball bat because I got mad at a wooden play set in my backyard. Edit, grammar and spelling. Walking onto the mud after they half-drained the Lynn River. I fell up to my armpits in mud and had to be rescued by the fire department. By the time the firefighters got me out, there must have been 50 to 100 people standing around watching my dumbass get pulled from the mud. My confidence with girls for a long time. Looking back, I may have embarrassed her too, giving it to her in front of her friends, which is why she reacted that way, but even still it makes me cringe when I think about it. I can only imagine that with social media around back then, and it happening in such a public and crowded place, there would possibly be a viral video posted on YouTube or Twitter of that embarrassing moment. When I was about 7 or 8 years old, we took a field trip to the Field Museum here in Chicago. During our lunch break, and I wandered off to the gift shop to see what they had. I had a huge crush on this girl named Victoria in my class, and I saw this ladybug ring for a couple of dollars. I knew she liked ladybugs and I had money my parents gave me to buy something at the shop, so I decided to buy the ring and give it to her. I was really nervous and kept waiting for the right time to do it. I eventually decided to just go for it and walked up to her near the end of the trip. She was with some of her friends, which made me more nervous, but I found the courage to do it. She looked at the ring and laughed. Her friends joined her and she then tossed the ring in the trash. I was completely devastated and tried hard to hold back my tears. Even though I'm over it now, that completely fucked. One time when I was a little kid, I punched my dad in the dick because we would always give each other love taps on the bum. Seriously, why are they called this? And I thought the front and back versions of love taps were interchangeable. I guess not. Fuck. I did that when I was 12 or so, but half us knowing what I was doing. We were watching TV when it popped into my head, intrusive thought style. I was sitting on the floor in front of him when I just turned around and waylaid his sack. My dad wasn't an exceptionally strong man. He was 6 feet 7 inches and lanky, but that motherfucker picked me up with one hand by one of my ankles, gave one solid slap across my ass, and dropped me on my fucking head. Whole thing happened in about 2 seconds from sack tap to head drop. I really miss that crotchety old fucker. I was at the airport. Hadn't seen my dad since I got back. Saw a guy with a blazer like my dad's. Jumped onto this random stranger's back as he's looking for his luggage. He must have been so confused. At least you didn't get on the wrong plane and end up in NY. Then try to brutally murder 2 grown men. Dude, they tried to rob a toy store on Christmas Eve to try to steal the money earmarked for kids with cancer. And the kid only knew about their plan because they tried to abduct him earlier. And they got injured in the process of trying to abduct him a second time, although he did set them up. I'm not sure that's quite enough to justify attempted murder, but it's gotta be close. Your sister sounds so interesting, smiley face. AGAIN. If it makes you feel better, my wife did this at a mall, not the reasoning, at 25. That was still pre-engagement. Edit PQs, we were at a mall in Dulles, Virginia. I wanted the cheesesteak place at the food court, she wanted Taco Bell, guess which one? No more than 10 minutes later, she says find me a bathroom. I didn't understand at this point, and walked toward a directory. With more urgency she says get behind me, we are going home. Halfway to my new car, quite a distance, I knew. Once we were outside she burst into tears and ran. Always keep some trash bags in your car, they saved my hatchback. But not her pride when we had to go into the apartment after she refused to change in the car. Oh. We've now been together 4 more years. We laugh about it often. During recess, a friend coaxed me into throwing a firecracker into the bushes. Which I did, because I was stupid that way. The bushes caught fire. The bushes were very close to residential houses. We didn't know what to do, so we just went back to class, as the bell had rang. 15 minutes later, I could hear the fire engines. 5 minutes after that, my friend and I were called into the principal's office. After a stern talking to, the police had arrived and we were taken to the police station, where we had to explain ourselves again. Ultimately, we each had to do 20 hours of community service. This was in the mid-90s, before the web, smartphones and social media. So there was no online record of this until I shared it right now. Better times. I wrote Valentine card to a guy in school. He realized it's me and made fun of me in front of everyone. That was bad. Edit, thank you for your support and stories. Also, some years later, in university I told other guy about my feelings and he explained to me that we can be only friends. I don't really remember exactly his words, but it was perfect, caring and most delicate talk possible for such situation. We were friends for long time before and still are 12 years later. So that only highlights how different people can be. Oh dear God, Pontins Breen Sands. I have a vague memory of being there as a 5-year-old with a severe stomach bug and convinced I was going to die, all while our static caravan was infested with ants and we had to be moved twice. Second time was because my mum found a dead mouse behind the fridge in the second caravan. That time when I was rowing my younger brother around in our little dinghy and insisted it should be me, not him, who should hold the duck's egg that we had found in an abandoned nest. I held the egg between my skinny legs as I rowed us back. Long story short, it rolled off the bench and broke on the dinghy's bottom. It turned out to be a rotten egg and the stench was intense. I remember crying as I was made to scrub out the dinghy while my brother was enjoying his evening meal with my parents. A classic parenting moment. Emo equals. Kind of a sad embarrassing moment, but before my grandmother was buried, one of my aunt kneeled and put her hands on top of her casket to pray. My grandma's casket had a clear window at the top. I was around 9 years old, and I saw what she was doing, and I wanted to pray for her as well, so I did the same thing my aunt was doing. When my elbows were on top of the casket, the glass broke in front of the whole family and I cried thinking I disgraced my nana's memory. How I peed my pants because I thought the teacher would yell at me for asking to go to the bathroom. I remember peeing my pants in ballet class as a kid because the teacher refused to let me go to the bathroom. She got her receptionist to clean it up in front of the class while I stood there mortified. The receptionist probably felt just as bad as me that she had to clean it up. Running from the police wearing nothing but Doc Martens, a Costco hat and a cast on my right hand, jumping a fence as best I could only to catch the toe of my boot on a picket and fall directly into some fits of bushes, getting myself untangled only to fall into some more fits in the exact same yard. That said, I got away. Edit. Picket, not pocket. Makes me think mine would probably be my cloak. I got a cloak for me Legolas costume for Halloween one year in, I think 6th grade. I liked it better than my jacket, so I wore it to school every single day. Throughout middle and high school and even the first 2 years of college until it tore irreparably. Honestly, Cloaks are useful AF and need to come back in style. When I dropped my £20 TV onto my 4-year-old sized body for God knows what reason. I unharmed need help lifting the TV off me because I'm 4, I scream and holler for help only for my dog to come in and shit on the floor right next to my face. Licked the shit, licked me, liked itself and then licked himself out of my room before my mom came in and helped. Probably that time I went into school with my pants smelling of damp. I actually didn't know that not drying out clothes properly would cause such a pungent outrage. I thought my mum had washed them with my dad's socks. So I sprayed what may as well have been a full can's worth of Lynx chocolate on them and just went into school. Wow. The smell was even worse. Walking down the corridor I heard someone scream OMG what's that smell and I knew it was me. I ended up pretending to be ill and going home at break time, which wasn't soon enough. I thank that lady for letting me go even though I clearly was just leaving because of my smelly pants. Probably one of the too many times I was involved in various Rocky Horror Picture Show reenactments during high school theater events. Or that time I played Mina in our high school's presentation of Dracula and during the lusty bedroom scene while Mina and Drac are processing their undying love for one another, in a perfect moment of silence someone yells out, "Stick IT in her." And I forgot all my lines and we kinda just sat there frozen in each other's arms, staring in horror into each other's pimply faces. Or that time 9 of us dropped acid, climbed into one car and went to the high school dance and made complete asses of ourselves when they played Cotton Eye Joe. My acne. Edit: I should add that those with acne, no matter how severe, should never feel embarrassed. It's natural and a part of life. My personality back then was very insecure, which is why I would have been embarrassed. Midway through HS it cleared up significantly on its own. Give it time, my acne fam. It was Halloween and I was in my Superman costume, 7 years old. I was with my cousin who was a Power Ranger along with my mom and dad. It was one of the last homes we visited that night. We knocked on the door and the owner opens up, gives candy and out of nowhere, a fully grown Doberman squeezes through and chases me for a block or two. I was running full blast, my cape flying all over and shouting. Behind me, the Doberman. Behind the Doberman was my dad chasing after us and behind my dad, the dog owner chasing after us, too. Ha, my mom has a deep fear of dogs. I saw her hide behind a tree along with my cousin. Good times. Stage to play along with a strip tease or something and says she'll get me a drink. I'm like, fuck yeah, I need one. So, I oblige. She walks me on stage and sits me down on a chair. She proceeds to strip and give me a lap dance and I'm ohing and eyeing and showing how much I love her boobies and butt because I'm all in for this fucking drink. Then she grabs my thighs and throws my legs to the side, full on spread eagle. The buttons down the back of my pencil skirt fucking RIP right off. I'm wearing zero panties. My VAG is on full display to the entire strip club. Everyone's hootin' and hollerin'. Stripper finishes. I rush off of stage, trying to pull my skirt down enough past my ass and button whatever's left. Completely mortified, I get my fucking drink. My boss is in the back, just shaking his head, laughing, motions me to come over. He says, "Beethoven von Snowman. Me and you just bonded. I just saw your fucking beaver." The weekend goes on. My cohort lovingly nicknames me Beaver, which eventually evolved to Beezy. I later hooked up with a guy from another school, and left with the nickname Sleazy Beezy from the Big Easy. I don't know if this will be read 5 hours in, but here it is. We were in New Orleans for a college organization conference. I worked in a department at the college I went to and we took some students with us. It was the weekend after Mardi Gras, so it was still pretty rowdy on Bourbon Street. I was newly 21 and there were a couple of 18-years-olds with us, so I thought it to be the responsible thing to keep sober and watch after the girls. It fucking sucked. I was trying to wrangle one by her belt loop when the other talked the door guy into letting her into a strip club. The rest of us followed in after her. The 18-years-old that dragged us in is having her best life with lap dances and embarrassingly laughing her ass off. My boss is in the back trying to avoid the whole thing. I'm sober and being grumpy just waiting for the night to be over with. A stripper asks if I can join her on. Undoubtedly for shitting another kid's pants. Elaborate.